Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. Welcome to Sign for More Injury Funding podcast for all who want to learn about legal funding and its significance in the personal injury, workers' compensation, medical malpractice, premises liability, and many other types of law practice domains. I'm your host, Laura, founder and CEO of More Injury Funding, the legal funding counselors with passion for law, medicine, legal funding, and heart for all suffering individuals. In today's episode, I have a very special guest, the Doctor of Chiropractic, Cathy Sarvis of Wendland. And we are in a beautiful place here in Woodstock. Tell us a little bit about Woodstock, Cathy.
Woodstock is an interesting town. I'm not a resident, or I should say not a native here, but I've been a resident for quite a while. It's unique in that it really honors the past, but it celebrates the future. So here you'll find streets that are named after some of the founding families in Woodstock, but you'll also find historic homes next to brand new, beautiful state-of-the-art construction. It's really well planned out.
I love it. Amazing. I love coming down here for good concerts, for a good cocktail once in a while. Beautiful. Cathy, you've been not just my personal and my son's Lucas chiropractor, but also our mindset coach and inspirational leader of women around the globe. But the main thing, you are my dear friend.
Thank you.
Your energy is contagious. You are a walking diamond. You are such a treasure in people's lives. Tell us, how did you get from chiropractic, being a doctor of chiropractic, to leading women around the world?
It was more of a natural transition. It didn't require additional thought. It was just a progression. I think I have been helping so many people in different aspects, whether as a fitness instructor or personal trainer, whether as a chiropractor, or through my work through pregnancy and prenatal care for so many women around the world. I had a big website for many, many years that was called Educated Pregnancy, and we taught women how to have healthy pregnancies, better birth outcomes, how to raise families naturally. In doing so, it was more that they found me rather than me finding them. Mm-hmm. And as the women came to me from around the world at different places, and I had the wonderful opportunity to travel and speak on stages all over the world, it was a natural progression. It was where my heart was at. It's where my passion is at. I'm so passionate about helping people become the best version of themselves in whatever aspect that may mean for that person.
And Cathy leads What If movement as a transformational leader, motivational speaker, and health expert, like she said, with over 30 years of experience. Cathy inspires women to embody their most confident selves. And she's known for her electrifying presentations. You can look her up anywhere. She's on YouTube and all proper social media platforms. She has this captivating energy about her. As a chiropractor, fitness instructor, and dedicated mom of two, Cathy helps women enhance their lives through mindset work and community. But since it's time for More Injury Funding podcast that we are on today, we are focusing on personal injury specifically. Cathy, can you tell us what personal injury means to you, and from chiropractor's perspective?
As a chiropractor, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for personal injury clients because I was one. When I was young, probably about 19 or 20 years old, I was hit by a tractor trailer. Mm. And at that time, the tractor trailer was owned by a company. It was a leasing company that had lowball insurance, insufficient coverage for the state of New York. And I suffered greatly because of it. I suffered physically, I suffered financially, I suffered in time. It was 18 months of every kind of doctor, therapist, service you could imagine, just to try to minimize, not eliminate, just to try to minimize the pain that I was in. And it was grueling. It was very intense. And through that process, I ended up becoming a chiropractor because it was the most logical progression for me. It just made sense because I wanted to be able to help people with the important thing they have, which is their health. My goal was always to help as many people as possible live a better life, and chiropractic just afforded me that opportunity. When personal injury patients first started coming to me, because I have that experience myself, I knew how important it was to make sure people get the right care right away. I didn't. I didn't get the right care and I didn't get it fast enough. So I suffered needlessly for many, many years. Chronic pain, chronic nausea, headaches, radiating pain, numbness, tingling, difficulty doing a lot of motions, loss of function, loss of mobility. Had I gotten the right care at the right time, the direction of my life would have changed. And that's not to say that I don't have a good life and I'm not happy where I am. I absolutely am. But I didn't need to suffer for as many years as I did. And that became a passion of mine. That became something that burned deep within me to make sure that people not only got care, but got care right away and got the right care they needed.
That's very, very important. I'm glad you did it. And that's exactly what paved your path, who you are and where you are today. Cathy, tell us, why should providers focus on the individual experience, or individuals rather, experience during personal injury cases? Could you discuss the relationship between the provider and the patient?
I've often asked this question because I teach graduate level students that are getting ready to go out into practice. What would you do if your best family of patients that you adore, that you care for, that you've been seeing for quite a long time, were involved in a car accident? How would you feel about their need for care? What would you do to make sure that everybody, the little baby, the kids, mom and dad, were able to get back to a normal level of functioning? How would you feel if that was your family member or your mother or your sister or your little sibling? Wouldn't you want them to get the best care right away? And with that in mind, think about, how is this going to affect their lives? Because I've seen patients, I know we all have, who, for no fault of their own, just are driving down the road and get into an accident because someone else wasn't paying attention, someone else was distracted, someone else had an illness that caused them to swerve off the road for whatever reason. But they get into an accident and the rest of their life is affected. They have chronic pain, or it lessens their lifespan, or they're suffering, or they can't continue doing their job. I've watched this happen so many times over my 30 years in chiropractic that I always wanted to make sure that that didn't happen in my office. That was my goal, was to make sure I got people back to who they were and what they were able to do prior to the accident so that they can go on living. And this was just a little blip in the road, not a change of their whole entire life.
And I'm sure, Cathy, you have so many stories, but we'll talk about some of them later today. How important do you believe is empathy in understanding patient care?
It is essential. It's not just important, it's essential, because you can get to the point where someone comes in and they're complaining of pain or discomfort, and you're like, yeah, I know, just get on the table, right? Where you can just get so used to dealing with it and know that you know what you need to do. Like, just be so convicted that I know what you need. I know what it's going to take to help you feel better. Just get on the table and let's start getting the work done. But the reality is, for that person, you might have seen 100 people that day, but to that one person, you are it. You are the only provider they're seeing. You are their doctor. You're the person that they trust. You're the person that they're looking to for hope, for answers, for solutions. So you have to make sure that you are so focused on not just delivering what they need, because that's important. We have to make sure we deliver what they need, but making sure that they feel heard, making sure that they know that they are in the right place for the right reason and that you have their best interest in them.
And I know you are amazing at it, because again, you were my doctor, my son's son. So my son told me yesterday, before yesterday, he says, I need to see a chiropractor. I said, I know you'd like to see Dr. Cathy, but sorry, we'll have to find one of her friends at this time. What role, Cathy, do family, friends, and co-workers play in the recovery of the injured person? Let's explore some emotional and psychological support systems for a moment.
You can have who doesn't believe in you, doesn't believe that you're really in that much pain, or thinks that you're faking it, or thinks that you just need to get over it, or thinks that you just need to move on with your life. When that happens, the patient has a harder time healing. because now they're just trying to jump past the healing point and get back to normal function. And as we all know, if you get an injury and you don't give it enough time to heal and rest and recover and recuperate, and you go do something, you can risk re-injuring that and maybe doing more damage. And what I've found is that the patients that don't have a supportive community, they don't have someone who will either bring them to their appointments if they're unable to drive, or will make sure that they're doing whatever at-home care they may have been prescribed. If they don't have that, they're less successful in their care.
Very interesting point.
The care is more likely to take a longer period of time, or on the flip side, they're more likely to drop out of care and never get the full benefits.
Which happens a lot, from the legal funding perspective, we have that happening, unfortunately, all the time. How can injuries impact social dynamics and work environment?
So I'll give you an example of one of my patients who is a bank manager. And she had a very stressful job. She's constantly on a computer, but she's also looking down at her computer screen because of the way it was positioned in her particular office setup. She was in a very bad car accident, a rollover accident, a lot of injuries, all soft tissue. But in addition to the soft tissue that you could see, she also had compression fractures in her cervical spine. So that is often overlooked. It's often missed completely. But when it is found, it's often overlooked, and it is detrimental. It is going to change the pathway of that person's life. It's going to change not only their cervical spine, it's going to change the pull on their spinal cord, their brain function, their nerve ability to transmit without interference, and it's also going to change their organ function. So a compression fracture is a big deal. This woman had a compression fracture. Every time she would go to work and go forward where the compression fracture was and look down at her screen, she would get excruciating neck pain and blinding migraines. Now she's trying to continue doing her job because she's in a position where she had to keep working, but it was making her care less effective. It was lengthening her healing time and making it harder for her to get the benefits that she needed. It finally got to a point where she had to go ahead and take family leave time so that she could heal from her accident. Had she not had a supportive job that allowed her to do that, where would she be?
That's sad. Yes, unfortunately, there are a lot of stories that as I come across day in and day out, and you try to help these people as much as we can in whatever way you can. Can you tell us how providers, current and future ones, we have several graduates coming up this year and in the next couple of years, can incorporate the human impact into their approach to personal injury cases? Maybe you could suggest some effective strategies for providers to prioritize patient-centric care.
It starts with your first day, in your first introduction, your first meeting with the patient, taking the time to listen to them. Finding out not just the mechanisms of injury, were they the driver, the passenger, which side of the vehicle were they hit on. That's the stuff that we all know to do. But finding out, how has this been affecting your life? How is this affecting your family dynamics or your work situation? If there were children involved, if there were children in the car, how are the children sleeping? Because a lot of times people will say, well, my kids don't have any pain after the accident. And that may be the case because a lot of times kids don't report pain. But maybe they're not sleeping, or maybe they're not focusing as well, or maybe their mood swings are a little bit different, or maybe they have a little bit of an attitude, or they're just uncomfortable and they're irritable. So finding out really how this is affecting the person, not just the body.
That totally makes sense. And we briefly talked about your personal example when you were delaying the taking care of yourself after really bad injury. What are the consequences overall of delaying care after an injury like your own? Can you discuss, Cathy, physical health implications, potential for chronic pain or disability maybe?
Absolutely. If someone has an injury, let's talk about a shoulder, for example. If you're holding onto the steering wheel when you're involved in a car accident, it's very, very likely that your torso goes forward, which drives your shoulder, your arm backward. There may be a slight dislocation, there might be a subluxation, there might be a tear in some soft tissue. But if you don't know that injury is there, other than the fact that you have pain, what can happen is you do more damage to it. A lot of times patients will come to see me after they've already been given an anti-inflammatory a muscle relaxer, and a pain reliever. Well, the problem is pain is there as an indication that there's a problem. We need the pain there to remind us not to use it. The muscle goes into spasm to protect you so that you don't have full range of motion, so that you're not moving it too much. And the inflammation is actually there to serve as a cast to basically hold the body in place. And I'm a perfect example right now because I just had a fall, hit my hand on the ground. My hand swelled up. It's got a lot of pain in it. The muscles are in spasm. I have limited mobility in my hand, but I know that that's all part of the healing process. I'm not going to skip that part of the process because it's all necessary. Is there a point where it's too much? Yes. Can inflammation be too much? Can the pain be too much? Yes. But understanding that it's part of your body's protective mechanism. And so when we eliminate that protective mechanism, we can forget that there's pain, or we can forget to limit our mobility, and then we can do more damage. And that is something that I've personally experienced. That's something that I've witnessed with so many of my patients. We want to make sure that people honor their body and understand if there's pain, it's an indication that something's not right. And we need to back off on our emotions, our activities, the things that we do on a daily basis. But think about, let's go back to that compression fracture and cervical spine. So a lot of times people don't realize what a compression fracture is. And if it's okay with you, I'll kind of explain.
Yes, please, absolutely.
On top of a square bone. Okay. And these two square bones have a disc in the middle. Think of it like an ice cream sandwich, right? I've got the cookie, and the ice cream in the middle. Well, I have a very heavy head. So do you. So does everybody. We have an 8 to 10 pound head. And if we're riding along in the car and we get hit, our head's going to flop forward. And that flopping forward with that 8 to 10 pound head is going to cause our spine to bump into each other. And sometimes as the bones slam forward, they slam with enough force that you end up with what's called a compression fracture. Now, it doesn't mean that a piece of bone broke off and floated out into space. It means it actually indented. I don't think if you took a water bottle and tapped it on the table, the corner of the water bottle will indent. But we can't take the top off the bottle and blow back. So the bones can end up with an indentation. Well, now, instead of having a square bone on top of a square bone, you have a square bone on top of a bone that's missing the corner. Well, gravity is going to pull the bone above forward and going to start to lean forward. So people will start to lose their cervical curve. People will start to have what's called anterior head flexion, forward head flexion, one of those terms, either one. And what happens over time, your head is so heavy that your body needs to put out stabilizers. It does this in the form of degeneration. It's called lipping spurring. Basically, as the head is leaning forward and the weight is leaning forward and that bone's not there to support it, you'll put out extra bone, like a set of claws, to try to hold the head up properly. If I'm falling forward, I've got to prop my head up. That's the idea. And so if we don't recognize that there's a compression fracture, if we don't take measures to help the body heal properly, if we don't take measures to help restore the normal cervical curve when there is a compression fracture, then the body just keeps falling forward, and it leads to early degeneration, early arthritis, early possible dementia, because as we're in this forward flexion position, we're putting a lot of pressure on the brainstem, on the posterior aspects of the brain. We're functioning off of the primitive brain, the hind brain. So people in this position will have more aggression, depression, violent tendencies, mood swings. When we're forward in this position, we're shutting down critical thinking, fine motor skills, higher order. So we're shutting down the forebrain. So if we don't catch this soon enough, by the time they have pain that is debilitating, they've also got degeneration that's irreversible.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot to absorb. You provided just a source, a fountain of information, a lot of it which I didn't know about. So hopefully this will open eyes to many of our attorneys and clients and doctors. This is just absolutely fascinating, and it's kind of scary too. Very good to know. We talked a little bit about the physical aspects of the injury and family and impact of an injured person. What is your stance, doctor, on the psychological effects, including anxiety and depression related to untreated injuries?
Let's put aside the initial shock that someone goes through when they get into a car accident, and there sometimes is a hesitation to drive. Let's put that aside for a minute. And let's deal with the long-term complications of that, the long-term implications. Someone who's been involved in an accident or a slip and fall, now they don't trust themselves. Now they don't trust their body, or they don't trust other drivers, or they don't trust themselves behind the wheel. Does is it translates into every aspect of their life. So now instead of saying, oh, I'll go out and meet my friends after work, well, it might rain tonight, and I got into an accident on a rainy night, and I don't really want to be out, so I'm just going to go home. And now we're missing out on life. We're missing out on things that we should be doing, but we're not, because of the effects of the accident, because of the mental effects of the accident. So it is really important that you have conversations with people after the accident to find out, how is this affecting you? How are you sleeping? How are you functioning? Is this interfering with your relationship? Is this interfering with your ability to be a parent, or your ability to work throughout the course of the day? How is it affecting your ability to sleep and to think and to just, have the free spirited life that you may have had prior to this?
Absolutely. Wow. That's mind-blowing. How does immediate corrective care affect recovery? Maybe you could highlight some benefits of prompt treatment, rehabilitation, and follow-up care.
So years ago, when I was practicing in Long Island in New York, I had a family that came in to get adjusted, left, pulled out of my parking lot, went a half a mile down the road, and got into an accident. And they called me from the scene of the accident while they were waiting for the police. And then once the report was done and everything was done, they came right back to the accident. Well, because they'd already been patients of mine, I already had x-rays of them. After the injury, we took x-rays, and you could see the change in their posture. You could see the change in their spinal alignment. It was immediate. What we did, though, is we started giving them care right away. We started taking care of them. I started getting them adjusted, doing everything that they needed to do to get their body back in proper alignment. So if you think about it like this, if I was walking down the street and someone bumped me, I could bump right back and I'm fine. If I was walking down the street and you bumped me and I stayed in this abnormal position for a week, 2 weeks, a month before I get care, well, in that time frame, microscopic degenerative changes have occurred, and they are irreversible, those microscopic changes. But also, my muscles have changed to this abnormal position. My soft tissue, my ligaments, my tendons have shifted to this abnormal position. So healing after a period of time is harder than if I got bumped and you bump me right back. But if I get bumped and I stay there, it makes the process take a longer time to heal.
And we already touched on that, and you already gave us some amazing examples of, how you help your patients. But do you have maybe additional success story that you would like to share with us about patients who received the immediate care versus those who did not?
Yes. So I have one patient who was involved in an accident down in Florida on spring break or one of those things, and was down there for the week, but called me right away and said, what can I do? I just got into an accident. I said, I'll make some phone calls. We'll find a chiropractor down there that will take good care of you until you can get back. And because they were able to get care initiated right away, it was just a simple handoff. By the time they came back after the week was over, we just resumed the care, and they did well. I've had other patients who have been involved in accidents, and then they don't know to get in the ambulance, or they don't think that they're that hurt, or they don't think it was that bad, or they're more concerned about their form, or getting to work, or going to pick somebody up, right? And they think about all the other aspects of life. They don't think about themselves and their body and putting themselves first. So they delay care. And then they go home, they go throughout the rest of the day, they go to bed, they wake up the next morning and they feel like they got hit by a ton of bricks. Just assume it'll go away. And people they just assume it'll go away. And they wait a day or 2 days or 3 days. Now it's the weekend. They don't know who to call. They don't know what to do. And now it's Monday and they've got to get to work. Right? So days go by and the pain's not getting better. And at that point, they realize they need to do something, but oftentimes they don't know what that something is to do. They don't know if they should go to urgent care. They don't know if they should call an attorney first. They don't know if they should schedule an appointment with their primary care provider. That might take weeks to get. So that not knowing what to do is what sometimes causes people to be in pain for longer periods of time. If people understood there are certain things that you could do immediately following an accident, obviously get their information, get the police that you're able to. If they're not able to, obviously get that person into an ambulance right away. But getting checked out within a short period of time after the accident to see the extent of the injuries, Is there damage? Is there damage to the spine? Is there damage to the nervous system? Are there muscular damages? Are there any structural damages? Do they have any broken bones? Do they have any internal bleeding? Finding that stuff out right away helps to set us in the right direction of care to make sure they're getting all of the care that they need and can benefit from.
That's essential. You listen to Dr. Cathy, follow her example. Don't delay your care, okay?
Be checked, get checked right away. And even if the accident is your fault, because I know a lot of times people think, well, I can only get checked if it's not my fault, if it's somebody else's fault. No, even if the accident was your fault, even if it's a single vehicle accident, you need to get checked because you have no way of knowing what's going on internally between the airbags and the seat belts and the impact and the sudden stop or the rotation of motion, whatever could have happened. Your internal body went through all of that. And we can't wait until it is giving us a signal that's so loud we can't ignore it. We need to check it out before it's too late.
What are some commonly missed injuries that providers should be aware of from your experience?
So a lot of times there's injuries to the hands from the steering wheel or from the airbag. A lot of times there are injuries to the shoulders, hips and knees because of the position that we're in, depending on if somebody's driving a stick shift and they've got one foot out forward and one foot pulled back and then get into an accident in a rotational position. Think of the mechanism. Think of where the car was, how they were seated, if they were looking backward, or if they were, perfectly seated, sitting forward. Think of the position that they were in, and then how they got impacted and what that did to their body. So when you think about all of that, now you can start to think, well, did they shift to the side? Could they have torn some muscles on the side of the obliques? Did they injure their shoulder? Did they drive their shoulder up? Did the hip get pushed back into the pelvis? So when you start to pay attention to the mechanism of injury and how they were positioned, not just that I was driving forward and I got from the side, but I had my head turned or I was leaning over to, change the radio station, whatever it may be. All of that plays into how their body was injured. Add to it, do they have pre-existing conditions? Were they already injured? Did they already have degenerative processes going on in their body?
Very interesting. Good to know. Can you break down for us the complexities of soft tissue injuries? We briefly touched on that as well. Concussion and maybe other subtle injuries that may not be immediately apparent and the post-injury effects or the way the injured person feels.
I love that we have so many providers, who are really focusing on concussions and post-concussive syndrome, because that's something that was missed 10 years ago. It was completely ignored 20 years ago, and it was not even a thought 30 years ago. But now we realize that we really have to pay attention because the impact on the person's life of the body coming to an abrupt stop and the brain shifting inside of the skull can be so incredibly detrimental. And depending on the person's age, they may have less of a capacity for healing. So being able to refer patients to someone to check for concussion and to put them through a concussion protocol if they have one is so crucial, and it's so beneficial. And I'm just so glad that we have great providers here in this area. And I know we have great providers in some of the other areas. All the big cities have concussion specialists. That is something that has been needed for a long time. Also, to be able to see the x-rays, to look at them, to put your eyes in them and look at the alignment, look at what's going on, look at any impingement that you may have, any dislocation, any subluxation that you may have in the spine to affect the nervous system. Looking at soft tissue injuries and understanding healing takes time. Healing takes time. It's the biggest message that we have to remember ourselves and help our patients to remember. Healing takes time.
I love it. If someone needs an inspirational coach, I wouldn't say good chiropractor. I don't know if I should mention that at all, but how can they find you, Dr. Cathy?
So my website is drcathysarvis.com. That's the easiest way to find me, or you can find me on social. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, I think I'm even on TikTok. I don't know. My team might have me on TikTok, but you can find me on Instagram. That's the easiest place, Dr. Cathy Sarvis.
And could you also mention briefly about your new app that came out about What If Women? How can women and men find your app?
Yes. So we have an app that is designed for those people that have achieved a level of success, but feel like there should be more. You know, you're supposed to be grateful for what you have, but yet you don't really feel fulfilled. And you don't want to admit that you want more, maybe because then that seems like you're not grateful for what you have, or that you're afraid that you're going to lose everything that you worked so hard to build. So we love to teach people how to envision more and go after it with the tools and the strategies to actually achieve their goals without losing the life that they've worked so hard to build. So the app is called What If. It's 2 F's because What If stands for wealth, health, attraction, and transformation to inspire fearless freedom. You can find it on the App Store, and we'll have a link in the show notes as well.
And I had an amazing coaching session with Dr. Cathy, and it's absolutely put me in the right mindset and took me to another level of thinking. So thank you so much again. And thank you for finding time that you spent with me today, sitting down and talking about these very important topics, and specifically about understanding the human impact of personal injury cases, and for your inspiring and empowering conversation. And of course, for being my special friend. I hope we can have another episode and get into more depth of what if going forward. Maybe we can revisit in a year or two, because I know a lot of things will have changed, a lot of progress will be made, and would like to see where you're at a year or two from now. But before I let you go, Dr. Cathy, I have one last question, one pop-up question, as I promised. Okay. You ready for that?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. If you could master any skill overnight, it has to be overnight.
This is like the Matrix.
You could download. What would that be, and how would you apply
it? Any skill overnight, I would be a because then I could travel wherever, whenever, without having to wait online or go to security or pack my bags and have them check my suitcase. They do that every time. I get checked every time. I would be a pilot. And then I would have the ability, because of course, if I was a pilot, I'd have my own plane. I would have the ability to travel anywhere in the world so that we could impact more people and help them really see more for their lives and give them a vision of something bigger, something bolder, something more exciting, so that they can have the life beyond their wildest dreams.
That's so amazing. Is that on your list of manifestations?
No, but I think, what's funny is I was actually late last night, I was redoing a vision board. And one of the papers, 2 of the papers that I cut out, one, way before we even came up with the concept, the logo concept for our app. The app was the name and the product was already there, but we didn't have the logo concept, which is a light bulb. One of the things I had cut out was a light bulb, but it was an avocado with a light bulb bottom. And the other was a plane, and it said something along the lines of private aviation, or my own plane, something along that line. And it was so cute and funny, and I thought, oh, that would be wild, but that's not on my vision board right now. This is not what I'm calling into my life right now. But apparently it is, because Laura just asked me that question.
So Christian, Lucas' friend, when you come back from your first semester of your piloting school, we'll have a conversation, because we need to talk to Dr. Cathy afterwards, okay?
Yes. Yes.
I see that the line for her.
Flying lessons, and it was intense, but yes. Okay. I want to find out.
I may actually consider taking classes with you, and then we can fly together. What about that? Oh my goodness. Okay.
We'll go impact the world.
I'll be in the passenger seat first. You can lead the plane. Thank you again for being my special guest today. I want to thank you all for watching and listening to our episode today. For more tips and tricks on legal funding and personal injury law related topics, follow me, like, and subscribe. It's time for more injury funding podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, and many other podcast platforms worldwide. And follow More Injury Funding on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest, Google Business Profile, and my website at moreinjuryfunding.com. That's with 2 O's. Oh, I can't wait to see you, my dear listeners and viewers, at my next upcoming episode. Tune in for our next guest soon. Until then, be well. Thank you.